Hello and welcome back to Run Fast, Lift Heavy. Today I'm joined again by Elly Cowley. Elly, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So the goal of this conversation is to cover 3 topics, ideally under 15 to 20 minutes, and just to give people a good insight into topics that are relevant in the nutrition space at the moment. So the first topic I'd like to talk about is calories on menus. For those of you that don't know, in the UK, for restaurants with over 250 employees, they are now required to display the calories in each meal on their menus. This is because the government are trying to tackle obesity, and they view this as a way for people to make healthier and more informed choices when dining. As a nutritionist, do you see this as a positive or a negative?
Cool. Okay, super current this one. It is tricky, and I can definitely see two sides of it. So we'll start with why it might be a good idea to have calories and macros and stuff on menus. Nutrition information is on all foods that we buy, pretty much everything anyway, that's available in supermarkets. We have the little traffic light system on the front, and if you turn over onto the back, you can see everything there, from the macros to calories per portion, etc. So why not have it on the menus that we're given when we go out to eat? For a lot of us, it could lead us to think a little bit more about what we are eating, question whether something on the menu is right for us at that particular time. And if restaurants discover that some items on the menu become a little less popular than others, maybe because they're just a little bit too over the top in terms of calories, then they may look to amend their menus and make everything a little bit more, I don't want to say the word healthy, but maybe more in line with the guidelines that like the amounts that maybe are better for us. But as you can tell, I'm not particularly for this idea, so I'm a little bit more against it personally. And yeah, personally, when I want to treat myself and have a night off, I'd like to go out to eat and see food as literally just a social part of the social experience. I'm with my friends, I want to relax. I don't want to be thinking about the amount of calories that I'm about to have, especially when it's what I generally do a lot of the time anyway. So that it's always good to have a little bit of a holiday from that. But on a non-personal level, overall, it can exacerbate eating disorders of all different types. And there's actually some proof that calorie labeling doesn't work particularly well. It's been present in the US since 2018. Americans overall aren't getting any slimmer as a nation. They are actually getting a bit fatter. So studies suggest that they are actually just ignoring this because it's so in your face every day. It might be the same as products in supermarkets. Like, you see it all the time, so it's desensitized to it. I think overall, as a government anti-obesity initiative, I think that they're tackling the wrong end of the stick. They're tackling the restaurants, which after years of turbulence during lockdowns, they're the ones that are being targeted, which I think is generally a little bit unfair. I think instead, how about we focus on health rather than weight? So weight and calories aren't the only sort of element of nutritional status. How about emphasizing healthy behavioral changes and education rather than shaming people for their food choices? So my overall opinion is maybe not as good, but there can be some positives to it, as I say with everything.
If there was someone struggling with control issues around food and seeing the calories for a certain meal perhaps could be a trigger for them, how could they overcome this?
Okay, so depending on where someone is in their recovery journey, for example, if they have bulimia or a history of anorexia, depending on where they are in their journey, they might be at the point where they're looking to try and eat out a lot more and to normalize this experience. So they might experience some anxiety around eating out without having to think about what's on the menu and calories being present there. So to lessen that anxiety, there's a few things they can do. Have a support system. talk through the various options with a trusted friend or family member. Plan what to have in advance. I talk a lot with my clients about controlling what you can control and trying not to worry about the things that you can't. So having things like a backup option if the thing that you're probably going to order isn't on the menu, for example, having a backup there. Another option that is available is asking for the menu without the calories on. I know that a lot of restaurants are having some of those available. So it's a little bit like, can I see the vegan menu, please? Or can I see the vegetarian menu? It'll be just the same as like, gluten-free. Can I now see the menu that is also gluten-free and also doesn't have calories on? So they're going to have a bunch of printing to do. Another bit of advice that I would offer is focusing on what eating out allows you to do, which is spending time with friends and family, and to keep everything around the meal out as typical as possible. So no guilt associated with what you just had, and remembering that calories are not the only measure of nutrition at all.
Great point. Thank you very much, Elly. So the next topic I'd like to talk about is beetroot and why beetroot can or may be beneficial for athletes. I know it's something that you've looked into fairly recently, so I'd love it if you could just explain what you found.
Okay, so the beetroot little trial that I did. So basically, during lockdown, my colleague through WDN, Tim, and I were both doing personal experiments in our spare time. At the time, Tim was researching nitric oxide, which was going through a big wave in the nutrition research world. What nitric oxide does is it relaxes the inner muscles of your blood cells. So it allows vessels to widen, and therefore it increases the blood flow. And this has some health benefits such as lowering blood pressure, but it can also positively affect sport performance. It means that nutrients and oxygen are delivered around the body faster, and so therefore performance capacity could be increased. So where to get nitric oxide? It can be found in leafy greens, cocoa, but by far the food with the highest concentration of it is beetroot. So I decided to try a little test, as I quite like beetroot, so I was happy to give it a go. My aim was to see whether consuming concentrated beetroot pre-workout would positively impact my performance. And I tested it out with a 5K run, one at the start of the experiment, so before I was eating beetroot regularly, and then I repeated it 2 weeks after. So every day I would have a load of beetroot. I worked out that the optimum amount was going to be, I think it was something like 200 to 300 grams of beetroot, and that's quite a lot. So I did opt to have the concentrated beetroot juice, and once I switched to that was a lot easier to get in to my diet. So what happened was the run that I repeated ended up being 2 minutes faster. But during the week, the training sessions that I was doing, I did keep a diary here, and I wrote down that I felt more recovered. I didn't feel as much muscular soreness. I felt strong, and the fatigue during runs would kick in a lot later into the workouts. So in all, it was a positive experience. I wouldn't say that it's like a wholly conclusive, like I was just one person there. And also because I knew that I wanted to be faster in that second run, I might have pushed a little bit harder. So those things are hard to control. But the conclusion is that, well, we're always looking for those 1% gains, the things that make us feel more awesome, and make us faster and just better human beings. So it can't hurt to supplement with a bit of beetroot or include it just into your diet, just as a little boost for workouts, recovery. If you're having it alongside a load of leafy greens like spinach, cabbage, like broccoli, rocket, you'll benefit from all the other vitamins and minerals that are in those foods too. So including it as part of a healthy diet is a big yes from me.
Yeah, so this is actually the second time that we've recorded this episode because I had an audio malfunction. But since our first recording, I've actually bought beetroot powder from Holland and Barrett, and it was
Amazing.
only about £6, and I've just whacked it in my berry smoothies, and my
Nice.
wee is very
Oh
pink
my
and red.
gosh.
But yeah, I mean
Yes.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
even
quite
if it's
fun.
placebo, it still seems to work for me, and it worked for you. So that's a win anyway.
Exactly. Big win either way.
Yeah. So the final topic is something really interesting. So we're going to compare two avatars. So I'll set the scene. Person A and person B both eat a healthy diet. Well, sorry, both eat a diet of 2,200 calories per day. They both train and both have office-based jobs. The difference being that person A eats a whole food-based diet, while person B eats a very processed food dense diet. What would be the key differences in their bodies, and covering topics such as fatigue, BMI, energy levels, and then also which diet could be the most sustainable of the two.
Cool. Okay, I like this one a lot because it's sort of like a real life example. Um,
Yeah.
and it sort of like reaffirms what we were talking about before, that calories are not the only measure of health and nutrition status. So
Mhm.
basically, person A, who's I suppose the good one, so the one who's doing all the right things,
Yeah.
eating right, and then there's person B who's eating a very processed diet. The definition of processed food in this instance being sort of like the really ultra processed foods, so things like fried foods, processed meats, sort of like ready to eat microwave meals that maybe haven't been cooked from scratch. So that's what I'm going to refer as processed food here. So is that going to be worse for that person? Probably on the outset, if they are eating similar calorie amounts, then technically they should be around the same weight. But that might not be the case, because the person who is getting all the nutrients present in whole foods will probably feel a lot better, and therefore be able to perform better within their training, and therefore their NEAT might be higher as well. So their energy levels, meaning that they're more likely to go out for walks, they're more likely to move more just generally because they're not feeling as lethargic. Therefore, they might
Mhm.
actually be burning more, and their body composition may well be better. On the inside, the person who is depriving themselves of vitamins and minerals by just eating sort of junk food, I suppose, they'll be avoiding all of the things like fiber that help you to feel full. So they might feel hungrier, even though they're eating probably more calories than enough calories for them. They're probably experiencing mood swings, and they are putting themselves at risk from developing type 2 diabetes, heart disease. They might have sleep issues. They might get arthritis later in life. All because that long term they're depriving themselves of vitamins and minerals that keep the body going and ticking over and thriving. So the difference between the two of them, one of them will be thriving, the other one will just be surviving. But to answer your question about which one is better, I mean, obviously the whole food diet it sounds better, doesn't it? But in reality, we can cope with a little bit of junk food within our diets and still have a healthy body composition. We can still hit our goals. We can still feel pretty damn good. But we just have to be a little bit more mindful of the calories that we're putting into our body. So even if some of the calories are invested in processed foods, probably percentage wise, we're looking at the majority coming from whole foods, and then a little bit of the fun foods as well, because life without cake sounds a bit sad.
Totally. And also, it's just about convenience as well. You know, if you've got a day on the road or you're traveling, if it comes from a wrapper, it's going to be a lot easier for you to
Oh my God,
prepare
yes.
and to consume.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's like the modern world is like full of processed foods, but not all of them are bad for you at all.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Ellie. And also, if anyone listening has questions, feel free to send myself or Elly a DM and we can get them answered in the next episode.
Yes, please do. Thanks for having me. That was fun.
No problem.